Welcome back from that short commercial break. I hope you're having a great morning. Personally, I'm really having a great morning. I'm so excited just right here. We are still with Cliff Castlesy discussing the business that's in graphic designing. And of course, we are still getting more insight on how you can actually be a successful person engaging into visual communication business, but in particular in Uganda. But remember, don't forget to buy securities through Zabu. That's Alltech Securities through Zabu. As you just dial *292#, and of course they will avail you with options. You either buy government bonds or securities of a particular period of time. And remember still, if you want to get back your money, it's possible. You can sell back your securities and you'll be in position to receive your money immediately. It's exactly 5 minutes past the hour of 9 a.m. and we are still into the topic of discussion. Cliff, when I read your profile, I see that you didn't study graphic designing. Now there is somebody asking right there, do I need a degree in this to become an expert? Because you clearly didn't do that.
I want to give you a twofold answer.
Yeah.
So I would support anyone that wants to go and study graphic design. There are a few institutes here that do it well, specifically for graphic design.
Yeah.
But what you need and what you need to build in terms of business acumen to use this graphic design that you learn to actually build a career out of it, or to go as far as building a business out of it. Most forms of education may not, and the ones that do that, for example, a few online courses from the University of California, that's one of them that does it quite well, but it is a bit pricey, and you can still get it a bit cheaper on Coursera, but not very many young people in Uganda can afford that.
Okay, but still, I have a question on that. What if somebody goes to, these days there is what they call the University of YouTube?
Yes, now that was the second part of my answer. So YouTube in itself, but it's never a straightforward learning path.
Sure.
So the first place is learning softwares, and you can learn that through tutorials. There are many tutorials online that you can learn the softwares through.
Okay.
But then when it comes to actual application of what you've learned, besides just being able to put together a couple of things, there are very few people out there that will teach you things like the principles of design. Like if I have a poster, why should the topic be one of the biggest things there? Or if I have a poster, how should I use it to communicate effectively, such that people do not miss key important details? And this is a common thing in our country here in Uganda. We have a lot of people that have learned design through the University of YouTube and tutorials. But when you look at let me say the piece of communication they put out, let me say poster, it's going to lack the business purpose at the back. You're like, okay. It was like whoever the owner, the customer that asked this person to design for them might have cared that the thing looked nice, but may not have thought about it solving their business problem. So they put out the poster and it does nothing. People just scroll past it,
So literally, it's like.
So there are certain principles that need to be learned, and in universities they may in universities and in graphic design institutes they will teach you those. However, when you get to learning it yourself, you have to be intentional, and you need to know what you're looking for. So that is what happens in this scenario. That's what happens when we get to a point when you're going to learn yourself. So that's what I did. So when I started my journey, of course I knew I had to first start by learning the softwares. And that's the easy part. Okay. But then I was like, I went ahead to look for what are the unique things that are world standard, worldwide standard, gold standard, that I need to learn about design. Because so you go into things like reading books.
Reading books.
Yes.
Because actually when I'm reading your profile here, I see that you used to use mobile phones to design, mobile phone applications to design, to put up something.
Yes.
Like,
so in the beginning, of course.
The beginning, of course, yes. That was the beginning.
You do not have enough money to pay for an Adobe. An Adobe. But these days, design has been made simpler in terms of the software.
Yeah.
So, for example, there are applications like Canva today that are that make it very quick and easy to put out a poster. You get, but the functionality of that poster is only going to be determined by the skill of the designer and their understanding of why they're doing what they're doing. See, and there are things that may be accepted, like today, someone puts out anything and it's as long as it looks fine. But then there's one who's going to come out and every single piece of content they put out just works well. It communicates what they want, and they make sure they don't miss the mark. And those things you need to learn. In fact, you need to learn and practice and put into action, because you need to look at it through the lens of why should I use you as a graphic designer? Because you're solving a business problem. If it is communicating, I need to be able to communicate. And those are the things you look out for. Well, I personally looked out for these in my journey, because I knew I was not doing design simply because I wanted to earn a quick buck. I have an entrepreneurship background. I also have a degree in entrepreneurship. Yeah. And I understood that if a business is going to pay me any money, it needs to pay me money because I'm solving a problem.
You're solving a problem.
You get.
Very interesting.
That's what carries through to design.
Okay. And still, when I read through your profile, I see you made a statement when you said, my goal is to leave my mark with new ways of visual communications. That's to help position, set apart, and attract attention to the brand or the organization's cause. Now, if the listener listens, if somebody reads this, how do you explain that to them? Because I believe it carries some deep business insight.
Well, like I said, if a business or a brand, in this case, because I mentioned a brand, the organization.
Yeah.
For example, I've worked with a few organizations that are non-government organizations. They do not necessarily have the profitability incentive at the back, but they need attention drawn to their cause. So when I'm designing, let me say, creating their brand, I create it in such a way that whatever piece of design that's coming out, whether it is a logo, whether it is a poster or a video, any form of visual communication that comes out, has a certain style that draws attention to the primary cause. You know, you look at things like, for example, the colors you're going to use. You look into the psychology of those colors and then use those colors to convey that message.
Psychology of the colors. That point.
Yes.
Explain to somebody out there, because personally, by the way, business sales majority largely depend on the psychology of how you can really attract the customers. Because imagine, we have quite thousands and thousands of people that are investing into products in the country, but why is it that the market share still remains with a few people? Psychology of colors. Cliff, I want you to explain to a viewer that point very clearly. There is somebody watching and they want to do this business. Explain to them the concept of the psychology of colors, because that's the icebreaker.
Well, for psychology, it's just one of the key design principles that you need to learn. That we do not just use any color, we use colors for a reason, especially if you're using it in communication. So now as a brand, you may choose, oh, our color is blue or green, and that is fine. Yeah. In terms of identity, it's the same thing. Like I said, if your skin is black, your skin is black. Yeah. It's an identifier. But when I'm wearing clothing, that's how I'm applying psychology of color. Okay. For example, if I want to stand out of a crowd, I may have to use something that stands out in a certain way. For example, I want to wear bright colored clothing, probably lime green, and it speaks to the standing out in that sense. And that is one of the psychology. Lime green is bright, and that's one of the psychological effects it has. But then when it comes to, let me say, graphic design, in terms of like a poster, I want to convey that my website is under construction. Yeah. I'm going to use something that looks like an alert, and alerts are primarily in red. Okay. So I'm going to use red because it is a warning color. Interesting. It is also a very vibrant color. Wow. And it's reported, I believe red has a certain way it plays with the mind, the way the mind interprets it. I think naturally, because the red is not a very naturally occurring color. Now, if I want to convey comfort and approachableness, I'm going to use naturally occurring colors, because human beings exist in nature and they are comfortable there.
This is deep.
So I use that in my design. And so if for example, someone may ask themselves, hey, you your customer is like, hey, could you make this look a bit more approachable, I would say, for example.
Yeah.
And then you, like, the design is fine and does its job, but you are wondering why they're asking that. It's because psychologically they do not perceive it as that. So you may find that me getting a green and an earth tone, yellow and brown, and adding it to that design is just going to do the trick, and then the customer is like, yeah, I think this one works. And they may not understand why it works, but it's because I understand the psychology of the colors I've used. The customer may say, hey, I want this to look clean, make it cleaner.
Yeah.
You know, so I understand white is one of the colors associated with cleanliness in terms of, you know, so I'm going to use that. And I'm also going to use a few things like spacing. The spacing I'm going to use in my design. But these all fall within the psychology and the other design principles that you need to apply as you're doing your design, such that it's not just I'm making pretty things. You're making pretty things that actually work, you know, that do their job.
Cliff, very interesting. Hope you've gotten that concept. The psychology of the colors really matters. Have you ever been passing by a post probably on social media, and of course there are quite a number of them you'll go through, but there is that particular one that takes your attention. That's the exact concept Cliff has been explaining, the psychology of the colors. When you learn that tactic, you're going to make much more money from your business of the visual communications. The psychology really matters. Cliff, as we wind up, I think we are left with just a few minutes to wind up. Let's first of all look at the risk involved in this business, because I know people want to hear the good side, the money, but I want us to be realistic, because I've still seen people that are doing this particular business, but their life seems to be still not moving on like how it ought to.
Well, now in this particular case, so there are two cases.
Yeah.
Uganda and then worldwide.
Yes.
So for Uganda, there's still a PR, I would call it a PR issue with what graphic design is.
Okay.
In fact, in some cases you find it difficult to communicate that you use graphic design to solve business problems, because when someone hears you're a graphic designer, primarily they're going to be like, hey, okay, so you make posters, big deal, what's that? You know? And there's that here in Uganda. Of course, worldwide may be understood a little bit differently. But here in Uganda, there's that issue. It's a big one, by the way, because of where most people have interacted with the graphic design. Of course, we know the Uganda famous NASA Road, where most people have interacted with graphic designers. And at NASA Road, the business there is not primarily graphic design. It is printing and production of materials.
Materials,
you get? So the graphic design is only assistive to that. So when someone goes there to get a graphic design solution, I understand they might want a product out of it, but the solutions they're going to get are going to be aimed towards getting the product primarily. So the person is not going to care much about what colors you're using, or as long as you tell them, this is what I want, and they do what you want, and you pay them. Okay. So that is where there's that struggle, because that's how most people perceive it, and it may work for those businesses. There are people that just need that, and it's fine. But on a bigger scale, you need people that actually understand, and it's the reason why in Uganda, many businesses lose out, and we lose out our business from Ugandan companies, and that ends up going to maybe foreign companies, companies from Kenya, Tanzania, Kenya, some South Africa, some even America, whereby like our banks and some institutions are shelling out this work because they need someone that understands design as a solution for business, but they cannot find it easily here because of the kind of PR and also the nature of the designers that are around. So that is a big problem. Internationally, worldwide, is if your business in Uganda, you are growing and you're building yourself, you need to realize that graphic design has the unique opportunity that it is not locked by country. Okay. A designer in Uganda can work for a customer in the United States or Liberia.
Definitely, yeah.
So, however, when you're going to do that, there is the one thing that Ugandans find difficult to adopt, which is worldwide competition. To adopt your style, to adopt your design, to adopt your acumen, to compete worldwide, you need to be at the top of your game. Wow. And if you can't be there, no one is going to hire you. So earlier in my career, I learned this when I started exploring options of getting customers outside of the country. And proudly, I was able to thankfully, was able to adopt the skills early enough to be able to compete worldwide and present worldwide, such that I can get customers in, let me say, in the United States or other countries, because you're giving them value that can actually work for them on a world scale. So those are the two main problems I see. There's the PR problem of how people perceive design, so they pay less for it, they do not care here locally, and there is an issue with the level of design competition in the country, that people have, if they really are serious about design, they may end up shelling your work outside, and if you cannot get customers from outside of the country because you're not yet at that level.
At that level.
Yes.
Well, very remarkable, something so interesting. Cliff mentioned the aspect of the PR, how people really understand graphic designing, and it's so unfortunate, most especially in our country, that people don't pay value, don't really see, let me say, they don't really see the value of something. You know, somebody can tell you, hey, design for me this, I'm going to give you this amount of money, and when you really listen to what the person is speaking, you really get demoralized if you are the person doing that profession. So that has been one of the hindrances. So as much as you want to make money, get to understand that we need to understand the dynamics of this particular business basing in our region. That's in Uganda in particular. But still, that doesn't mean you should actually give up. He mentioned something whereby you can actually deliver outside Uganda, because it's not limited to a geographical location. But that will need you to be really competitive at your game. That means you'll have to do aggressive research to ensure that you can actually reach that demand, and you get much more money at the end of the day, because Cliff is actually getting businesses cross borders, and he's actually doing that. And how has he been able to do that? And that's why today he's come to share the knowledge for you out there who's planning to invest in this particular aspect. But still, however much you want to make the money, get to understand that there will be some shortfalls that you will be experiencing right there. Cliff, as we wind up this, where is the future of graphic designing particularly in Uganda? Where is it heading? Where do you see it?
Well, with the advent of social media, people have been exposed. Ugandans are exposed. So we are now, whether we want it or not, we're going to have to deal with the global consequences of being exposed that way. New ways of doing design are coming up. Today I mentioned something about artificial intelligence.
Yes.
So as a graphic designer in Uganda, you need to understand that and see how that can actually apply to you, because artificial intelligence is working already. Canva is one of the most used apps in Uganda when it comes to design. And we see that there's a bit of artificial intelligence used there, but even today there are applications where you can just type in a description and it gives you a piece of artwork, and it's unbelievable what you could do. So you need to understand how you can incorporate that into your acumen as a designer, you know, and make sure that you are moving with the times. I believe that the way graphic design is going to change in the country is as the PR changes, as people realize that there's value in actually creating a brand and identity. There's going to now be a need for adoption of new technologies like AI, like and that speed up the process of design in a company. You know, like identity that make it easy to put out content as quick as possible, because there's so many people putting out content, and the way and Uganda is going to have to follow that. At least the businesses that are serious are going to have to fall into that, because that's where the world is headed also. It has already been there for a while, but as business becomes a bit more serious, anyone that wants to really do business and actually prolong and live, and not just the subsistence nature of business whereby I do my thing and I earn my money for food, you are going to have to take design seriously in the country. And I am hopeful for the future in Uganda, but I'm also I also worry for the many that do not adopt the much needed professionalism that is required in the design field in the country, to make sure that they can deliver locally and also be able to keep their customers and from the praise of the international competitors.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow, very interesting. I hope you've been taking some notes regarding this particular aspect and on how you can actually make money from the visual visual communications business. Cliff has been giving us an insight regarding that, and he made a point as we're winding up regarding the future that's of graphic designing in Uganda, and this has been largely due to the unprofessionalism, the need to make more research. I know there is less incorporation of professionalism in this particular aspect, simply because we want quick money. Probably today you want to learn a skill, and tomorrow you want to be out there selling it out to the public. But remember, this takes time. Cliff has taken time to really get where he is, but that didn't just come by mistake. There was professionalism and aggressive research, and this is something, if you're a person out there aspiring to invest in this particular venture, something you need to put at the back of your mind. And don't forget Zabu. You buy securities on Altec Securities. Just dial *292#, and of course they'll be availed with a variety of options. You can buy securities or bonds or any securities in any particular company. And if you're no longer interested in your money being there into the shares, you can sell the shares back, and you'll be able to get your money immediately in a click of a second to your mobile phone, and life moves on. Do something new for yourself. And DSTV channel 372, GoTV channel 394, and of course on our social media platforms, Smart24 TV Live on YouTube, and then Smart24 TV Facebook at Smart24 TV. That's on Twitter. This is Smart Means Business. And of course, we're going to get into a short commercial break. I'll be returning with Joram Paul Sonko on set, and we shall be discussing the weekly topic discussions. And of course, I've been on ground meeting different people, discussing different aspects of the national economy. And of course, I'm going to be with Sonko as we get more highlights regarding this particular aspect. Cliff, it's been good to have you on set.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks for coming here, for coming in through. Let's get into a short commercial break. Good morning. Stick around.
Smart24, driving business.
Bulu magic is my joy. Bulu magic, wange.